Good morning from the North Fork. Welcome to the Nofo Live Show, where I, Ms. Tracy Kessler, and my co-host Sunita from Nofo Style chat live every morning every Friday morning at 9. See, I had to make a few mistakes because I don't want Sunita to make me start the show every Friday. Sunita is traveling and she will be joining us, but she challenged me to start the show today. So I said, challenge accepted, and we are not going to talk about the weather. Although I will say, when you start the show, you have a lot more time to kind of look at yourself, which is probably not the best plan. Anyway, I see that Sunita has joined, and this morning we are very excited to be speaking with Noah from Noah's in Greenport, a staple here on the North Fork. It's been around for as long as I can remember, so I'm excited to chat with Noah himself this morning and find out how he got started here on the North Fork and hear all about his journey through the evolution of the North Fork. Okay, so I see request to join. This should be joining any moment, and then hopefully we will add on Noah. And okay, fine. So Sunita says, what do you talk about while you're waiting people to come on? So Sunita, would you like a weather report? Would you like a weather report? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I would.
It's cloudy and crappy here today.
Oh, I feel so much better now.
And
How are you?
the moisture in the air is back. It's back. I know everyone was really excited that the moisture in the air had left and that there was like this nice, refreshing, cool breeze, but I'm still sweating over here, so.
So we are going to talk about the weather.
I mean, I said, it's like, what else are we going to talk?
First of all, this is such a different experience to be logging in and joining, but it's fun. Anyway, enough of our own fun. I just saw Noah message me at the top that he's logged in, so maybe just send him an invite.
Okay.
You see the people button?
Yes,
and then
the little head,
yeah, so
okay.
And Noah's going to put, yes.
See, I said I better not be very good at this because then you're going to make me do it.
Well, you know, since it's live, it's really interesting because first of all, the show is on our phone, so it's a tiny little screen. Good morning, Noah. How are you?
Good morning, ladies.
Hi,
How's
Noah.
everybody doing today?
How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
You guys look far more awake than me, that's for sure. It is like an ungodly hour here, and
Good morning.
because I didn't want to oversleep, I put an alarm. I don't think I slept all night because I kept picking up my phone going,
Worried you were going to miss it.
Is it 4:30? Is it 4:30? Is it 4:30?
I will admit that I'm already on a second cup of coffee.
Well, look at you.
Well, I'm being smart and I'm drinking water because I go right back to sleep after this show.
Nice for you.
Well,
Good
I already took a walk around the block with my daughter, and I'm also on water. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got it.
I know. I mean, Noah, you started.
Dog before the rain started here.
Nice.
Wait, it's raining there?
It just
I thought
started.
you guys are letting glorious sunshine.
No, it just started.
Ah. Noah, you started your career or your journey on the West Coast, correct?
Honestly, I started cooking years ago on the East Coast before I even went to culinary school or anything. So I guess I technically started my career as a kid, but I did end up cooking in Vermont for a few years and then pursuing the New England Culinary Institute in Vermont.
Oh.
And I moved to California after completing my studies in Vermont and moved on to Napa Valley, where I still work for actually the Culinary Institute of America at their campus in northern Napa Valley in St. Helena, which was a really awesome experience. Everything. It was really great. I was basically, after completing the culinary program, you do a 6 months, what they call externship. Luckily for me, I was able to find a paid externship, so that helped a little bit for my move to Napa Valley. But I stayed on there for about a year plus, just because I really enjoyed the experience, which turned out to be a lot more like continuing education for me because they let me do a little bit of everything. They had a working kitchen as well as classrooms that were for continuing education for chefs who are already very well established. So if you wanted to learn like a new kind of cuisine, you could go there and study Pacific Rim Asian cuisine for like a 2-week intensive. It was really cool, and I had a great experience there.
That's amazing. So let's talk about your restaurant in Greenport. How did you end up here in the North Fork? When did it start? Because it's been around for as long as I can remember.
Yes, we've been here for quite a while. We opened up in 2010. So my parents actually bought out here back in around 2000, and I was probably just moving to California. So I didn't get a chance as much as I would have liked to have to explore the area. But on the chances that I did get a time to come home in the summer and come visit, I always really enjoyed the area. And I started slowly to see the comparisons to Napa Valley, which I was in for years, and then Sonoma Valley, which is I ended up where I started my family and meeting my wife.
A sidebar, please don't confuse me with her because we share the same name.
She's the original Sunita.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Okay.
I see a challenge.
I don't like to call her the other Sunita.
I like that.
At least for me, she's the original Sunita. But yes, you guys do share the same name, and it's probably just the two of you who have that here locally.
Which I must say, has been very interesting because she sometimes is at the restaurant, correct? And
often.
Yes, and people do know her name, and just because of Instagram, people find me, but then they see my name, and several, not just one or two, assume that it's the same Sunita because
it is funny.
Really, what are the odds of two Sunitas on the North Fork? It's literally,
It's okay. Every once in a while, my mom still calls or emails the wrong Sunita. So.
Yeah, because in the interest of disclosure, I am good friends now with Noah's mom. Her name is Penny, and she's over here. Hi, Penny.
Yes, I see Penny. Hi, Penny.
Yeah, so they've been out here for longer even than me, but the restaurant opened up in 2010, and we had actually relocated to this area to try to open up something very similar to what we have now in a different location here in Greenport.
Really?
Going back, starting around 2007, we were looking at locations. And when we moved here towards the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, we just were not able to secure the correct location that we were working on. And I ended up working for the last few years of the life of the restaurant called the Seafood Barge in the Port of Egypt Marina. So I was out here cooking for a few years before we ended up opening up this fine establishment.
Do you think that was helpful that you kind of had that, let's call it setback, to then get your feet wet out here first before opening up?
I was disappointed I wasn't relocating across the country to work for myself. But at the end of the day, it was a blessing in disguise because I really did learn a lot about the area rather rapidly because it was a very established and quite busy restaurant at a time where there really was not a lot of other restaurants at all out here, let alone any that served quality cuisine.
Right.
So also was one of the first restaurants and one of the few that I still know of that served an all local Long Island wine list. And so I learned a lot about the wines from the area and met a lot of the salespeople because we did direct relationships with the wineries. So I think we were a little bit ahead of our time, but the food was really good. And I established not only a relationship with a lot of the purveyors that I still work with, the oyster growers, the fishermen, the fishmongers and things like that, but I also gained a little bit of a following of a customer base that when we opened up here, they seemed to follow.
So talk to me about the menu. Was the menu that you currently have at Noah's the vision you arrived with from California, or
in some
did that
ways
evolve?
I think probably after having been here for a few years, it might have evolved a little bit more towards an East Coast style of cuisine, just based on what we had to work with and what I saw that the customers really enjoyed. But my concept or idea was always to do small plates, shared kind of tapas experiences, which is what we were doing in California before I moved back here. So I worked for a chef who had several establishments, and a few of them were all small plate tapa style concepts. one focused mostly on seafood, one focused mostly on wine pairings and wine bar. And I worked with this chef for quite a few years at a few different of his establishments. So I always wanted to do something similar to what I saw was successful there. And it was a lot of fun for both the customers and the employees to serve that kind of style.
So as a foodie and as a diner, I think what I appreciate about the tapas and the small menus, I guess there are two kind of people that order what they want and then don't want to share, and then people that want to order and share with the table. I'm one of the people that want to sample everything, because as much as I enjoy one dish, I feel like it's so nice to be able to, pick at 5 or 6. And then if you don't end up, if one of them isn't exactly what you had in your mind, you still have a great experience because you're eating so many different things. So I love the small plates.
And I always thought we could get away with doing like an all small plate concept restaurant, but then I started to realize like it's a little bit untraditional for this area and for some of our clientele. So we needed to like throw on a couple of signature entrees just for the people who are more used to a traditional dining experience. But that's worked out really well for us over the years.
Well, and I'll say I've migrated. I used to be I want one dish, don't touch my food, this is what I'm having. And I've migrated now to sharing, but I do like having a restaurant that has a little bit of both, so that in case I'm like, all right, well, I'm sharing all this. Am I still going to be hungry? So let's get one entree that at least we share that.
Sure.
So we know we've got like a quarter of a steak.
And sometimes we get a lot of, we have a decent sized menu. A lot of it is inherently vegetarian and some vegan options and a lot of gluten-free. Not that we go out of our way to be extra healthy in the way we prepare food, but it's just the style of cuisine that we prepare. So it lends itself to a lot of healthy eating, I guess a lot of pescatarian menu items, and we certainly do not cook with like a lot of heavy so we want to try, order a couple of small plates, and I'm sure that's like a great way to experience a few different things and a lot of different flavors.
Well, I think it's important that people note that you just said that you have gluten-free and vegan, because there are a lot more gluten-free people out there. One of them is on our show right now. And, and I know your mom, I think, is gluten-free also.
Mom's vegan.
It's important
for
to know
years,
those choices are out there.
Penny's vegan and gluten-free, and so I'm sure that
she's a tough customer. Actually.
But she's saying thank you on the messages, and I think we should be saying thank you because of our restrictions and influence.
And we're very happy to accommodate guests. Our staff has been with us for years. We have a lot of our servers have been, here for a very long time, so they're very knowledgeable about what can be prepared and can guide the guests in the right direction on the menu. So we're happy to have great staff to work with us and a great team here.
So Noah, since you have been a restaurant for quite a while in Greenport and one of the first sort of like staples that hasn't left, what are your feelings as the evolution of the North Fork and specifically Greenport has been occurring? Like, how has that affected you in the restaurant?
Well, when we opened, it definitely was not the foodie destination that it's become. Mm-hmm. So, with the opening of better quality restaurants and other chefs who are really talented coming to the area, we've seen the growth of more and more people coming out here to try all the restaurants, and not the people come all the way to try us, but we were very busy for a while because there were just not a lot of options. And now what we get is people are here for like a weekend or a week, and they're asking our staff, where else should we try? This is great. And so it's definitely changed, and we're happy to like recommend our peers who also do, great work here in Greenport. There's a lot of really great options in town these days.
So do you miss Tumbleweed Tuesday?
Do we miss Tumbleweed Tuesday? We had never really felt that off switch since we opened. For us, which has been great, but we would notice town would get quiet, but the locals would start coming back in, and we wouldn't necessarily slow down right away like there was, no one coming through the door, or you could lay down in the street.
So you never
Well,
felt
you
like a
probably lay down
seasonal,
in the
you never
street,
felt
but
like
just
a
the people
seasonal
kept coming to
business.
us.
So you never felt like a seasonal business, if you will.
We definitely notice a change in volume and customer. So there's some seasonality to it, but we have a very strong fall season. So Tumbleweed Tuesday was never really just like the off switch that it might be in the Hamptons or something like that. We get a different clientele who starts coming out for the harvest and wine tasting, and then pumpkin picking and the end of corn season. So there's still a lot of like farm stand day trippers who are coming out to Greenport. And once school starts, we do notice a change of volume of customers and who exactly the customers are, especially during the week. But there's some locals who just stay away in the summertime who like come that Tuesday, they're right back at the bar, or they're the first ones back in and say, all right, we're glad we can park in town again, or whatever.
I'm starting to feel that way, because even in Southold, obviously I'm there all the time, but I don't go to the restaurants usually on weekends, especially breakfast or whatever. But we had guests, so we went, and I was sitting on Main Road, and the traffic, and I'm starting to think, I should only come on Wednesdays.
Yeah, it's funny. We are closed only one day a week, and so we do all of our errands during the middle of the week, and we mostly work on the weekends, so we don't have to fight that traffic too much. But we also do a lot of catering and off-site events, and so we always need to remember, like, oh wait, is this going to be the longest line to get just from here to the winery we need to be working at today?
So tell us a little bit about the catering. What do you do? Yeah. Do you do weddings? Do you do private events? What do you do?
Yes, we do all sorts of events, from bar mitzvahs to mostly weddings, but everything from bridal showers, small and large, at people's residences to local wineries. And so
you would go to someone's home and cook at a private event. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. So I've done plenty of events at private residences, and very varied in size, from small and intimate to somebody who's got a giant property in Montauk who's got a wedding that will be catering later next month for over 100 people. So.
And do you host events at your establishment as well?
We do, actually. So for anybody watching at the moment, unfortunately, we'll be closed this evening for a private event. So,
so there you go.
Not very often, especially like in season. It's rare for us to be closed for a private event, but we have somebody's rehearsal dinner this evening here at the restaurant, and they really were a decent sized group and decided that they would prefer not to have us open to the public while they were enjoying our space. And so we close only a couple of times, maybe a year, for private events, but we also have a private party room that we added to the back of the restaurant when we went through an expansion back in 2012. So we opened in 2010, and then we doubled the size of the restaurant in 2012 when the neighboring space became available.
That's great. And so you could have a private event in that space in the back while you're still open to the public, or
That's
like
correct.
Tonight you could do a full buyout and have.
That's also correct. Yeah. So the private party room seats about 40 and maybe up to about 50 people comfortably, depending on the style of meal and table arrangement, which is a nice number. There's not a lot of locations around town that can accommodate that. And with the new hotels that we have in town, it's nice to be able to have a space that can accommodate larger groups, because there's plenty of groups coming out of that size.
Yes. I had actually announced on Instagram a couple months back that I wanted to do a silent disco, and somebody from your team reached out to me and said, do it at Noah's, and I need to follow up. So pretty
that sounds like fun.
We might have a silent disco in the back room at Noah's. Keep your ear to the ground.
It's a very good space. It's easy for us to transform it to accommodate whatever a guest would want to use for back there.
Perfect. Well, I see we have a lot of comments here. People are saying they had their retirement party at the restaurant. Other people saying they had an elegant private dinner at their house. So you're getting quite a lot of accolades here on
nice.
Comment.
Yeah, it's been utilized by the community quite a bit. So I'm glad that we have it, and that people know that if something comes up and they need a space, we're usually, available and easy to accommodate a last minute request, or even plan something well in advance.
So tell us a little, I want to go back to the menu a little bit. I know you are truly a farm to table concept and get a lot of your produce and source your ingredients locally. So tell us a few things on a menu that are not to be missed for someone that hasn't made it there.
Well, I spent my morning today picking about like 35, 40 squash blossoms from my own squash plants in the backyard, which is nowhere near enough for a day's service. And so squash blossoms are on the menu, and at the moment, some of them are homegrown, but I have some really good friends who do a great job of sourcing and growing and harvesting their own organic and local squash blossoms from out in Orient for us. Those are a seasonal favorite on our menu this time of year. Also do a great local summer squash ratatouille, which we serve with halibut. That's on the menu as an entree or full plate, we call it.
Tell me about the chickpea fries.
I know, those are new. I haven't even tried them yet.
Fries are a vegan item that's, I guess it's not exactly a fry, but in France, it's sort of like a street snack that they do. It's fried chickpea. It's a batter, for lack of a better term, that we cut into a fry shape. In France, it's usually cut into coins and then fried and put into like a little cone, eaten hot with sea salt as you can walk along on the street.
Wonderful.
I serve mine sort of more in the French fry form with a spicy harissa tahini dip on the side, which is also just something vegan and creamy to add to some deliciousness to the plate.
That sounds amazing. And is that seasonal or is that year round?
I mean, it is on the menu during the summer season, but then sometimes because it's not necessarily a local ingredient, we'll put it on in the winter and do it differently. And sometimes, switch up the flavors that we serve it with. I like to use as a tar spice sometimes on the outside of it, which just adds a little, it has sumac in it, so it adds a certain tartness. So we serve it in different ways at different times.
Well, so I can't believe this has gone so quickly, Noah.
Wait, before we end the show, I want to add something there. The food obviously is delicious, but
Thank you.
The drinks there are pretty incredible too. I think we have a fun this spicy
cocktail program. I owe that to my wife. And when in season, we have, we do local peach purees. We have a watermelon drink on the menu right now with basil, with fresh local basil. So we really try to incorporate the ethos of the restaurant, which is really farm to table, even into our bar program. And I don't know if that's farm to drink, but we definitely try to use as much
farm
as we
to
can.
bar. It's farm to bar.
Farm to bar. I like that.
Yeah. Yes. So you've mentioned a lot about the North Fork and people that you collaborate with. So we're going to go into our Nofo Live at 5. If you, on your day off, were going to take us to lunch or dinner, where would you choose to take us?
That's a good question. I don't get the chance to eat out as much as I would like to, but if I was just going to go for a drink or something, we like Fortino's on the water, and they have a really fun bar and a fun menu that I like. They have some really good snacks, and I like to just have a quick bite there if I can get a break from work. If I'm taking the day off and I don't have to come to work, we usually enjoy going to Leave Winery on Oregon Road, which is not too far in Disclosure from where we live. So if we felt like it, we could take a walk with the dog there.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a nice place, and they have a really great selection of wines.
I've eaten at Fortino's, but I know that recently they switched to a tasting menu on the dock, like when you eat outside on the deck. So I'm curious, and I want to go try that.
I have not tried it yet either, but that does sound interesting, and I like Mike's food a lot.
Yeah, his food is delicious.
Okay.
But
so
we're
do you
all
wake
friends in Greenport, and we love to frequent First and South, and for breakfast, Bruce and Son. I worked with Scott, the chef there, years ago, so it's a small community, and we all like to support each other.
That's great.
Food is delicious too. I know Tracy, you and I have enjoyed that a couple of times. The brunch there is great.
Yeah,
does a great job.
So you mentioned you live near Oregon Road. So do you catch sunsets there or sunrises there? Because that's a gorgeous location.
Sunsets is the direction the property is oriented in, and it's a nice sunset overlooking the bucolic farm setting of Oregon Road. I also, we like to support a lot of our local wineries, but Quarry Creek does some fun events on nights where they have food trucks and live music, and Bedell as well. We do not have a solely Long Island wine list, but we make sure we're always at least 50%, if not usually more, in our wine program to support local wineries. So there's always probably at least a half dozen, if not more, reds and another 6 to 8 whites that are local on the list and available by the glass or bottle.
So when you're going to wineries, you're doing market research, is what you're saying.
Of course.
Yes.
It's R&D. It's a write-off.
Yes, there you go. So you also mentioned, obviously, Noah's the whole premise is farm to table.
As much as possible.
Can you share with us some of the farms that you work with here on the island?
Definitely. There's a few farmers I work with that have land and grow, small specialty crops, and they sell to maybe a couple of markets here and there, but they don't even really have a farm stand. But one's Ron's organic horticulture in Orient, and my friend Peter, which is Orient Organics. Both grow a lot of the stuff that we use. And then Latham's out in Orient is like all my corn. Just started with heirloom tomatoes. We do a lot of business with them because they deliver, which is really nice. It makes our life easy. But I do still spend time driving around and picking up at the farm stands and grabbing stuff I need locally. Indian Neck Organics is another one that we've been using their watermelon in our salad, and they've got some really nice summer carrots, beets, and I think their produce is probably also available through Sangley.
You just mentioned something that I'm sure, people who aren't in the restaurant industry really think about, but that you do have to actually drive around and get these things from the farms.
Yep. Most of my oyster guys will deliver, but sometimes if I'm really busy or I run out or I need an extra 100 on the fly, we like to call it in the industry, I'm jumping in the car, going to a farm stand and grabbing a bag of oysters or a bag of corn. So it's nice to be in a small community like that where we can still access the ingredients we need so closely. So
the true chef life is not what we fantasize or picture as you standing over a stove over a big wok with a hat, just shaking things up and then walking out and everybody else cleaning up. That's not the real life.
That's like part of it. But that's not as full time as I would like, I guess. It started though for me in the restaurant back when we opened in 2010, being behind the stove from open to close for quite a few years before I was comfortable to start to train other people to at least work some of the shifts.
That's great.
Yeah.
So Noah, we are so glad that you chose the North Fork to open your restaurant and to start your life here. Tell us why you're glad that you chose the North Fork.
The North Fork has been a great community for us. It's really embraced the restaurant. And so we have the local community to thank for our success. And we've also raised 2 lovely children in this community. And so I think it's a great place to have a family, start a family, raise a family, and be part of the community, because it really is a small community. And so we get to run into each other when we're running our errands, and I see the guy who's growing my oysters when I'm getting a haircut, and we can shoot the shit. So I guess I like that it is a small community and we all get to keep in touch and support each other.
Well, thank you so much. And Penny says she has the best grandkids. So
they got a pretty good grandma.
Well, thank you, Noah.
Thank you, ladies. I'm glad it was a fun and informative podcast we were able to pull off.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to come in and try those chickpea fries. I've heard about them from Penny, but I haven't made it in there yet. So
thanks. We are open for lunch today. We're just closed for dinner tonight.
All right. So get your chickpea fries in the rain today.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Noah. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Okay?
Bye,
Friday, everybody.
Bye, Noah.
Take care.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. It seems to see you.